And welcome to Pulp Mythos. My name is Brian, and I'm here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing the Wheel of Time episode number 6. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, even though if you leave a downvote, we won't know, and leave a comment. Um, I'm going to start with sort of the behind the scenes aspect of this episode, and full spoilers. We're not going to go into book spoilers, but this sort of is only because it was unexpected. So apparently the actor that plays Matt left the show in the middle of production. Don't know why. I don't know if it was a personal thing or what was going on, but the actor was unable to honor the contract. He said he was out, and it put them in a rough spot. So they essentially had to write him out of the show. So essentially, unless they were able to shoot some other stuff. I don't know how if they shoot out of order. Maybe they do, but supposedly he's written out of the rest of the season, right? And we see that at the end of the episode where they all go through the portal and he doesn't go. And if you notice in that scene, it seems a little awkward the way he was standing there. It almost felt like that was not supposed to be how that played out. So we know
Like,
that the show's been greenlit for a season 2. They've already cast the actor that will play Matt. He will come into season 2, but for now that he's been written out, therefore that in a big way affects the story. They had to figure out a way to write him out. Now they sort of have. I'm going to go into this, and then I want your guys' thoughts. So Moraine basically is under the assumption that either one of these 5 is the dragon, or in some weird way, maybe they all are a part of the dragon. But anyway, she wants to take them to face the Dark One. And with Matt staying behind, that sort of is a contradiction or sort of affects her plan. She's going to have to address this because if he is the dragon, well, that's a problem that he didn't go. If he is a piece of the dragon, that's also potentially a problem. So they're going to, like I said, I know they were put in a tough spot and they had to just sort of go with it story wise, but they're going to have to explain that in the next episode. Um, but yeah, what are your thoughts? What have you heard about this? I know we've talked a little bit off air about the fact that he's off the show.
well, I like looked into the actor. I think after the first or second episode and everything, and found out that he quit early on. Uh, but I thought it was like like they had finished the entire season and then he quit. But yeah, you're knowing that you're right. It is a little odd that he's standing way back there and doesn't really say anything to them. It's almost like that's where he was happened to be standing in costume last when he quit or something, because
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
I don't know what could have caused it, and I just hope that because I know they've cast a replacement already that whoever they cast is just as good or someone looks like him at least, so we're not thrown off.
Well, at this point, it's, the look I think is important, but Matt was not super vital so far. And, in the books, and I say in the book because I've only, I'm halfway through the first one, but he has a lot of speaking roles. He plays an important part, kind of counteracting a lot of, Rand. But in the show, he hasn't done that. And I don't know if it's just because of the lack of screen time he had or when he quit or what it was. But to me, it sucks if you're a book fan because him kind of being written out and not being a part of this first season is a big deal. He's a pretty popular character. But to me, being a show fan so far, because I've enjoyed the show, it isn't as vital because he hasn't really been all that important so far.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if this whole portion of the plot was only written as filler because he was fired. Like maybe they're only going after the Dark One because that cast member is gone, and they couldn't explain his absence when he was in town, with them for when they just met up and everything. Why would he leave immediately, other than having them go through a magic portal and then he doesn't go? Uh, so maybe we're getting, in a sense, unfortunately, 3 episodes of kind of filler in the show,
I, I
until we can get a new
it
Matt.
the I like I said, I don't want to go into the book too much, but towards the end of the book, there are they there are still things left for them to do. And I think we were going to get some of that in these next 3 episodes. But the way in which they've gotten here, some of the specifics in terms of what they said they're going to do, all that's different. Like they have gone way off script. But like you
I
were saying, Spencer, I'm fine. I'm not. I have. Not, I've only read the first book, so I'm not invested. I know those people who are invested and have read the series, multiple times. I understand they're getting frustrated, and some of them are really getting pissed. But as far as what the show is so far, I'm still on board.
I think what they should have done. I mean, it may have been hard, but they could have wrote lines for the other characters to say if Matt was just like done, is that Matt feels an obligation after getting rid of the darkness that was in him to go check to see if his sisters made it. He's like, hey, I got to go back to the tour. I got to see if my sisters made it, because then after he finds out whether they did or didn't or whatever, he could come back and be like, I found out they're okay. I really wanted to, now that I know they're okay, I don't want to abandon you guys. And then that's when they can meet up season 2. Like, I think that would have been a great way, because they've talked about him loving his sisters, loving his family. And then when he thought he may have killed all those people and killing those 2 little girls, that really bothered him. So it would have been a great segue just being like, hey, I got to go back to the 2 rivers. I have to check to make sure that they're okay. And that's it. And
The only issue, and it's the same issue they ran into with him just standing there. If Moraine truly believes that he potentially is, part of the dragon or the dragon, it doesn't make sense that she would let him not come through that portal. Like it would almost make, she would have to you know what I'm saying? She would almost have to like stop and go back and be like, I need Matt. They're going to have to explain. She's going to have to explain that in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made more sense if, there was a reason for them to purposely leave him if like he was, still sick from being possessed from the dagger and needed some time to recover. But even then, if they're going to fight the Dark One, it'd be a really big risk to take that 1 in 5 chance that he's not the dragon.
Well, and I think that it's still recoverable, because Moraine being, all the powerful and all this stuff, that it's almost like a test. Like, she told them that none of you may make it. We really need to test you guys to see which one is the dragon. But at this point, she may believe that Matt's not at all. She may just be like, yeah, he is definitely not part of this. The fact that he was getting overtaken, and she may feel like he was too compromised because of how easily he gave in. But if he didn't have power, he would have already been taken over. Like, I think that with like 1, maybe 2 lines of dialogue, they could save it still real easily. So I'm not going to make that my big, bugaboo yet. However, I can understand why it's going to be frustrating should they not address it.
and that's a good point, because she could have straight out said that it's like, yeah, if he is the dragon, he's not the dragon we want. He'll be easily corrupted, and left him behind, and see it as the sort of thing that whereas, like you said, because he got so corrupted by this knife so easy, if he is the dragon, then we're all doomed. She may see it that way.
Yeah, I'm assuming that there will definitely be, and they'll address it. I mean, they'll have to. So the next 3 episodes will probably mostly take place where they're going, and there's a lot of things they'll encounter, and then there's a lot of cool stuff up ahead. There are certain characters that are in the first book that haven't been introduced, and I don't think they're going to be at this point. Which, yet again, I'm fine with that too. They're hoping for several seasons, and they got to condense certain things or combine characters, certain things like that. But shifting to the bulk of the episode, that being sort of the politics. I said last week this was going to be the politics episode. Seeing how the Aes Sedai operate, getting an idea of just how they work, and we have the character of I got it written down. Swan, yeah, who is the leader, who rules the Aes Sedai. She's a badass. She was a blue. That's very important. And she secretly has a romantic relationship with Moraine. They're a couple, but they have to keep that shit secret because that would obviously cause conflict within the other groups because favoritism, etc. So it's interesting how they play that off. But the most interesting thing is sort of the little secret war going on between the red and the blue. And the fact that it all led to Moraine having to figure out a way to get banished because the blue want her to stay close to home. The red are sort of warring against her, and she basically is like, look, I got to get banished because I got shit to do on the outside. So as far as all of that, how it played out, I thought it was done very well. Um, how did y'all feel about sort of the politics, even down to when, what's her name, Lindgren is like talking shit, and then all of a sudden she's like, I know about that guy. See, so how would your sisters feel about that? Just that they have spies everywhere. That those scenes were showing that they have spies, they have networks. These are very capable people. The Aes Sedai, and yeah, just thoughts on the politics as a whole, and even the character of Swan.
The way you said red and blue, all I could think of was the Toby Keith song.
What?
I
I don't know that song, but
or the red, white, and blue.
oh yeah, okay.
Like,
Put a boot in your ass. It's American way. Uncle Sam, your name at the top of his list. I think this is missing a cameo. Like, I think that it would be great to get let him be the ogre dude, the library guy. It's fucking Toby Keith.
That said, I did like the politics, and I hope to see more of that. And I imagine we will, because they're clearly just giving us a little peek at how complicated things are with the Aes Sedai, and I'm curious as well if Siwa is Siwa the name of the one with on the head seat of the Aes Sedai?
It's like
Like Swan or
it's like
Sawan.
Sawan,
Yeah,
but then
Siwan.
she also, you could call her what is, they have names
Like
for her role, her title.
like the armament seat or
And
something.
Armerlin, yeah, the Armerlin. And yeah, the Armelin seat, and then she is also the Armelin like seat. Like it's the name of the chair and the throne. Excuse me, the throne and the person who sits on the throne.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm curious about too. Like, will she be able to maintain that throne, or does she have more enemies than even she suspects? And is her role potentially going to be challenged?
Well, it may be. I think the Reds seem to be vying for power, and even Leandrin, even though Moraine kind of put her in her place, Moraine's not there anymore. So, unchecked power normally grows. So I think that, Moraine's going to leave for a while, and she's going to come back from fighting in the Underdark against Dritz and Axel.
And you have no idea how accurate you are as far as where they're going. Yeah.
But I think that when she comes back, Leandra may be in power, and now you have her trying to go back to the White Tower with, Rand and the person now who is the dragon. It's one of those things where I think that we'll find out who the dragon is very soon, and then throughout the series, it'll be them growing to kind of fitting into their destiny, because I look at Harry Potter. Harry Potter's the chosen one from book one, but it grows and grows, and it kind of his character builds. Even Game of Thrones, you had a handful of characters that were the main focus, but you knew it was the Starks from like the first episode. So even as a spoiler alert, just in case, as they started dwindling down, you knew that they were still going to be the main focus. So I think that we could establish who the main dragon is, whether it's all of them, whether it's Rand, who I still think he's made a lot of comparisons to like Luke Skywalker or any of the other. But he seems to be the one who's going to be the main one, but I'm not 100% sure. Or if in the book it's going to be as close, because in the book he's the main focus. He's like the POV for quite a good portion of the first book. So, but I don't know that means it's going to translate to that. Game of Thrones did the rotating characters kind of thing for a while, so could still be anybody. But I think by the end of this season, we're going to have a good idea, at least in what direction they're pointing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I kind of feel the same way because he's kind of got writer's self-insert character written all over him. Just we've talked about the importance of his red hair a little too much.
But also remember, he physically is not at all what Rand is in the book.
That's true, but I feel like.
But yeah.
I feel like that's a Hollywood problem, that. But then again, they'd be willing to cast like a Chris Hemsworth type or what have you, which is what it sounded like they needed from the description. One of the Chris's,
based on what he looks like. Yeah.
Jesus, that would have been so good.
I know, like I said, I know where it's supposed to go, but I don't know that they're going to do that. I still am of the belief that the show may go its own path as far as the dragon and just how things are supposed to unfold. I don't know yet. There's certain things they've been saying where I'm like, yeah, maybe maybe they're doing something different. I was laughing with Larry. I think last night I called you, or we were talking about Perrin, because I was like, it was insane to me. So she's like, all right, we're gonna go through this portal, guys. We are gonna go fight the Dark One. Shit's about to get real. Perrin at this point he understands. He doesn't know the details, but it's clear to him that, okay, I was captured. Something happened. Clearly, I'm communicating with wolves in some way. And a whole army of wolves showed up and slaughtered all these guys and saved me. Perrin's aware of this. Egwene is aware of this. They don't know how it worked. They don't understand it, but they know it happened. Well, I can't imagine Moraine being like, we're going through this, and Perrin not being like, I got an idea. How about we learn how I control wolves, and then we go through this portal? Like, there's no, you know what I mean? I was like, there's no way that he wouldn't be like, no.
None of us knows what we're doing.
Yeah. How about we prepare before we go through this portal? Like clearly I got a wolf thing. I want to work on that. Rand, when was the last time you practiced your archery? I'm just saying, you can get a little practice in. Like, I don't know. It was just a funny thought that they would be like, look, we need to, perhaps we should plan this.
Well, I mean, they could, or once they get there, Perrin can just start telepathically controlling hellhounds or whatever the hell it is down there. Starts sending them at the beholders and whatever.
That's what I'd ask if I was him. Like, are there any wolves down there? Because my powers seem to be with wolves and wolves alone. So if there's no wolves down there, I'm pretty sure I'm not the dragon. So I'm gonna sit this one out with Matt.
Here's another a little gripe. So Moraine takes she cures Matt somewhat. Whether he's 100% cure or not, we don't know. But she pulls pulls the shit out of him. And then she's like, he can't if he touches that knife again, it's cursed. There's no saving him. What the fuck did they do with the knife? Like, that was my thought. I was like, who picked it up? Like, it was sitting there. I was like, did somebody put it in a bag, or did like
what did you just give it back to him?
Like, do y'all not like in a lot of fantasy, if you have like a cursed item, you have a special way you can dispose of it, or you would come in and you would take it to a place. Like, she wasn't, I just thought it was weird. She wasn't like, all right, so I called somebody. They're gonna come in. We're gonna fucking take care of this knife. There's this vault in the tower or whatever. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. She's like, yeah, you shouldn't touch it again. Like, what are y'all gonna do?
They were just leaving it around so that Leandrin could pick it up and
Yeah, I didn't see anyone like you said, dispose of the knife in a special way, or even take it very far away from Matt, as far as we know. They might still have it on them.
Like Harry Potter, you're going back to Harry Potter. They're really meticulous about items and how to store them, and like that's something that they take a lot of time explaining in the books and to some degree in the movies. So yeah, I just thought it was funny that she's like, "Don't touch it again," and I'm like, "What? You're just gonna leave it?"
Yeah, there's a lot of holes with this, and which is why I worry that maybe it's. Well, that was my concern earlier, that this might be filler, because it's like, okay, wait, we're going to fight the Dark One. Nobody knows how to use their powers. The most we've seen, what was it, Nynaeve do is throw a fireball like maybe a foot in front of her face before it
That,
dissipated. And
that was Egwene.
Egwene, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Nynaeve was the one that
oh yeah,
like
she
the
healed.
powerhouse. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Matter of
yeah,
fact,
and
they determined her to possibly be the most powerful channeler they've encountered in like a generation or two.
yeah, and it doesn't seem like she knows how she did that either. So it's a pretty big risk that they're taking.
Yeah, and she's the most powerful channeler since Gandalf, and but they didn't discuss that she might be the dragon. Like, she doesn't even seem to be a possibility of one of the main people, yet she's one of the most powerful. So my thing is how powerful is whoever the dragon is, whether it's Rand or some combination of them, or you know Egwene, Egwin, Eggface. Uh, she, she's been an understudy of Nynaeve for a hot minute, and also Moraine has taken a pretty big interest in her as well. So is she going to end up being this super strong channeler, or even on par with Nynaeve once she learns how to control what she's doing? So I, I just there's so many question marks, and I know that they're planning a lot of stuff out. They're trying to explain it to us a little bit slower, but when they jump ahead on some points so quickly but leave so many other things that feel important unanswered, that's what I get frustrated about.
And this is coming from like we're nerdy guys. We play D&D. We've clocked in hundreds, if not thousands, of hours on Skyrim. We're plugged into the fantasy genre. So when things get glossed over, like we have a cursed item and don't touch it, it jumps out to us. Now maybe it doesn't to most audiences. I don't know. Maybe it does, but that's why I'm picking through a
Look,
lot of those things.
wait, wait. Whoever is watching this show, this stands out to them too, Brian. It's there is no this, and we've talked about it before, and you've mentioned it a bunch of times before. This show hasn't had that crossover kind of appeal just yet. When you have Game of Thrones, there was a lot of sex and politics and people dying and people trying to murder these other people. And there hasn't, this one's been way more fantasy than Game of Thrones was. Uh, this is kind of more in the realm of Lord of the Rings, like that kind of angle where it didn't cross over as much. The people who liked it loved movies, but also loved The Hobbit as a kid. Loved Lord of the Rings, those cartoons that they did. It doesn't have as much crossover appeal as like Game of Thrones did. So the people who are watching this most definitely had an issue with that cursed item thing.
I think you're giving more credit to general audiences. But yeah, it's doing well in terms of how many people are watching it. Um, but yeah, I don't know that there are seems to be some plot holes arising.
Yeah, yeah, and I imagine they'll clean it up during season 2. It may just be because of the cast member that quit, and if that is the main reason for some of these plot holes, that may be plot holes, that may be the a good sign, because because this kind of caught them last minute towards in the second half of of season 1. So, hopefully they can pick things back up in season 2. And and things will make a little more sense, because it seems like, it's just weird for Moraine to be as experienced as she is, and she should know enough about these kids' abilities to know that there's no way they can defeat the Dark One. Collectively, I could kill them all right now if I wanted to. Yeah, I'm just saying, her being as powerful in Aes Sedai as she is, she probably could, So
Yeah,
it's a very half baked plan.
she absolutely could. Yeah, like there's been no prep, and they only took Lan. Well, that was another thing. The what's his name? Loyal. Like like there was never a scene where Loyal met like half the group. He doesn't know, and so it's like, but hey, he's with us. He's like going on this adventure. Meet Loyal, and it's like, okay, cool. Like they needed to spend just a little bit more time of him just talking and explaining what he's doing, why he's doing it, what he knows.
Well, and especially since one episode previously he was making fun of humans for not being patient, like in rushing into shit, and now he's just hopped on a horse and like, well, let's go.
Let's go, guys.
It's like, yeah, I'm down for all this. I've been this entire plan, even though I've just met you all literally yesterday, some of you today. Yeah, it is a little weird.
The I had seen that. Like I said, it's hard with streaming to know what the viewership is. We know that this show supposedly is doing better than Hawkeye. Like that was a big story in the news, but I don't think Hawkeye's doing anything as far as viewership. So this is probably, even though it's doing better than that, I don't know how much better. Um, Outside of you guys, I don't know anybody watching it. Now that's not a huge gauge of people, but still, I don't know. It never trends on Twitter. That I know. Um,
Yeah, but and we've talked about it before. Old Bezos, he's a fan, so this will probably get picked up for 9 seasons regardless. But yeah,
that would be good. Dude, imagine if he does like 9 full seasons. I think the showrunner said he was committed to. He wanted to do. It was like 6 or 7 was like
yeah,
his vision, but I mean
Yeah,
they're in production of 2 now. Like yeah, it's not. It's going.
yeah.
yep.
And on it already shows season 2 up. It doesn't say when it's coming out, but a show like this, depending on where they film, what they shoot, how much CG they use, the ability to do it quickly or it take forever is kind of up in the air. But it's one of those things where Bezos, unlike any Fox property or several Netflix properties where they're not willing to give things a chance, this seems he seems very in tune with the fact that it's not the weekly ratings as far as who's watching it week to week. It's once it's done, does it pick up? Is there merchandise selling because of it? Did the book sales go up? Because he sells shit ton of books too.
That's a
Hell,
great
I
point.
got the audio book. So I think that he looks at it as a different business model than Netflix or Hulu or anybody else. So
He looks at looks at it as a product. The show is only one piece of the product. Like you said, the books. Yeah, you're listening to the audio book. So if he sees a boost in the book sales, digital book sales, physical book sales, the audio book. If you see what's their audio.
Audible,
Yeah, if he
Mhm.
sees a boost in Audible, um, he could say, "Well, shit, look, yeah, I spent X amount of dollars on this show, and I only got this many viewers, but look at where all this other money is coming in." This is a show that has marketability in terms of merchandise too, potentially. If it, we can get back to a point where the conventions are booming again.
well,
um,
I
but
think
yeah.
you look what Netflix did with like the Daredevil show and Punisher and stuff like that. Those are Marvel properties. So although they got money from people watching those shows or viewership, or I don't even know how they calculate that bullshit, but They didn't get any money from the toy selling. Marvel did, Disney did. So with Amazon selling essentially everything under the sun at this point, everything that's associated with this show, whether it's blankets, pillows, books, toys, whatever it is, they have it. And them being able to track how much that has gone up. I mean, they have their hands in so many things that it's way easier to gauge how successful something is as opposed to something like Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I didn't even think about that aspect, the fact that, if this show is popular enough or the product is popular enough, it touches more than just the streaming service, for Bezos, and that's what really matters to him, the fact that, like I said, audiobooks, merchandise, TV shows, his fingers are in all of those pies, and on top of that, I think, if the ratings aren't as good as they could be, it's because, Amazon, well, Amazon Prime is not, at least as far as people I know in this area, a lot of people's primary streaming service. And sometimes that's the main reason I have a hard time getting certain people to watch a show, is because, they're like, oh, what's that on? I'll go Amazon Prime, and they'll kind of go, oh, okay, and then won't watch it. But because for most people, it's typically your main two are Hulu and Netflix, and maybe after that you have one other. And so for some, it's not Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and he's also looking for, you have Disney has Marvel and Star Wars. Warner Brothers, they have the Harry Potter. You want these massive franchises, and you can tell Amazon's really trying to also have something big. And the Lord of the Rings is coming up. That's going to be a big one. They got that. Wheel of Time's another one. They want these franchises that can spin off, that will last years. If you can invest in a show and get a decent amount of customers that are willing to watch your show, like I said, buy the books, buy the shirts, etc., that you're locked in for what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Well,
So yeah.
and I think you touched on, a point that we were dancing around, but when you talk about rewatchability, so there's shows, and you talk about Harry Potter, this time of year, Christmas, there's people who watch those movies over and over and over. Star Wars, shit, how many times have we all sat down and rewatched, the original trilogy? It's been done so many times. So now that Disney owns that property, every time somebody watches one of those movies again, it helps them. Uh, how many times have sat down and watched the Lord of the Rings movies, the director's cut that came out, and now the super duper ultra 9-hour director's cut that's coming out? Like, it's all of these things are owned by different people, so the rewatchability, I think, is important. So if they continue this show, it continues to grow. Even if I have a couple gripes now, as long as by the end of it, uh, the main kind of points of the books are touched on, the main kind of points of where they're headed, I can be okay with some, not necessarily plot holes, but some things that have been overlooked, as long as, one, it's enjoyable, two, it's kind of at least flows well, and three, the ending doesn't suck. That will make it rewatchable.
Yeah, yeah, that's what hurt Game of Thrones.
Yes. Yes, it did. But yeah, I think, like I said, I didn't have I was nitpicking, things. It's one of those shows where I sit back and I just sort of take it in, and it just sort of enjoy it. Yeah, I notice a few things, and I'm just like, why that? Why that? But I always chalk it up, similar to the Harry. You keep bringing up Harry Potter, but it's a great, comparison. There were so many things in the movies that I was like, that's stupid. But I understood. I was like, okay, they don't, they're translating a book. They got to cut this. They got to cut that. And so I get it. And I'm looking at this in the same way. So when I see certain plot holes, I'm thinking, well, they're rushing through this, or they don't know how to quite translate that. So that's why these little plot holes are starting to arise. And I a bit more forgiving with it, for that reason.
Well, and I think if, like I said, like if as long as the end product doesn't suck, then I can be okay with that. You know, the reason that Harry Potter movies bummed me out was because after being so invested in the books and rereading them so many times, the last movie, it felt very like anticlimactic. And same thing with Game of Thrones. You had this great buildup. I read the books. Well, not all of them because they're not out, but I read the 5 that are out, and I've read a couple of the little side story books, and I'm really invested in that world. And then for the show to go off the rails and end like it did, it's, to me, the end is so important. So if he gets 6 seasons or 7 seasons and the end ties everything up well and doesn't, take a giant shit, I will rewatch it multiple times and happily do so. But to me, sticking the landing is so important. And hopefully, they can justify a couple of the little hiccups. But like you said, I don't nitpick on them too much. Like we talk about them and I'm like, oh, well, that was kind of silly, but it's not taking me out of the show. It's not ruining the show for me. It's just something I noticed.
If you want to hear us pick through a show, listen to our Big Sky reviews.
So much.
There's so many things. There's a show where you're just like, what? Like constantly things happen. You're like, why? That doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, and there's only one major, like, I know we've, like, sort of picked at fine details of this show on this episode for once, but there's only one thing that bothers me a little bit, and it said I feel that their current depiction of the Dark One looks a little goofy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like they got an alien mask out of a Halloween store and put some light up eyes in it or something.
That is.
There's a couple things, there's still some enemy types, I'll say, that we haven't encountered yet that we'll see. And I'm curious to how they're going to look and how they're going to do it. I'm legitimately, I sort of know what I think might be in the next episode, but then again, I don't, because like I said, they are making some changes and tweaking some things. So it is sort of exciting. And that, right. There's 3 episodes left for the season. 7, 8, and 9. There's not a 10th, correct? It's just 9, I think. So yeah, we're right at the end. But season 2 is already in production, so hopefully we'll get that in the near future. We don't have to wait forever. I just heard horrible news about the Arcane series on Netflix. It did get it got greenlit for a season 2, but supposedly the production, they're estimating like 2 to 2.5 years.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's 2024.
Well, yeah, the show is incredible. So if they need the time, I hate waiting that long, but is what it is.
Well, it's animation, so at least nobody's going to be too old or anything.
That's true. Well, that's why they aged up. Like you said, they aged up these characters because they're like, well, we see what happened with the Stranger Things kids. they're all like grown now. But that's coming back next year. How many delays has that shit had?
2.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Apparently 2 major delays, because I can't remember the last time I watched a season of Stranger Things.
But let me see here. Anything else? I like the way they showed how their portal things work. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very D&D.
Yeah, it was neat, but like we mentioned before, it's just a little odd that we went straight there. It's like, we're doing that now. We're going through this portal.
Like I said, parents should have been like, I think I can control wolves.
Like, maybe if I just send some wolves through this portal while he's weak, can I do that?
Yes.
But all right, I think that's about it. Anything else on Wheel of Time episode 6?
No. Not that's just going to be me bitching.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
All right. Yeah, we got 3 more left for the season, and that'll be it. Look out for our Big Sky reviews. What do we do? Dexter, New Blood, and I think we're at least going to try 1883, potentially. So look for that. And all right, we appreciate everyone listening. We will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.